everybody. The purpose of this video is to show you how to use a Google spreadsheet with our class data to create a summary data table and a graph from that summary data table. So what we're looking at here is is the class data sheet that we created together, and the first thing we need to do is make a copy of it. So you go to File, Make a Copy, and this is what we called it as a class. I'm going to ask you to name it with your last name, comma, first name, and then a dash, diversity of communities data, and hit OK. And your browser will open up a copy. And now it's time to work some magic with the data. So here we have the species richness and the diversity index that we've calculated for community 1. And we need to calculate an average here. And you could pull out your calculator and add all these numbers together and divide by 6, because there are 6 sets of numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But part of the magic of a spreadsheet is that we can use our spreadsheet as a calculator. We just need to program the spreadsheet to tell it what we want it to do. So to program this spreadsheet, what I need to do is input a function or formula into the cell, because this cell is where I want my average to be. I want to calculate the average diversity index of all the different groups that calculated one. So I click on this cell here and I type equals, and I'm going to type average. And the nice thing about this program is it already knows a lot of mathematical formulas, and average is one of the mathematical formulas that it already knows. So when I begin to type average, it pulls up its list of formulas and finds the one that is closest to and matches the ones that I want. So I want this one. And so now if you look at it, it's going to calculate the average of several sets of values, and it has these parentheses, and that's exactly what I want. So I am going to take my mouse and highlight the cells that I want it to use to calculate the average. So I'm going to highlight the diversity indexes that we individually calculated, and I want those 6. I'm going to close my parentheses and press enter, and voila, look at that. There I have an average calculated. And so there's my average for community 1. I need to calculate my average for community 2. So again, I do the same thing, equals average, and there it is. And I don't want G12. I'm going to close this because it's in my way. I want these cells. Close parentheses, hit enter. Now this number has too many decimal points. That is way more than I need. So what I do about this is I go up here, I keep this cell highlighted, I go up here to format, click on number, and I click on the number here with 2 decimal points, because that's really all that I need. And there, it changed it. And I have to do that one more time with community 3. Now, for whatever reason, this group 6 here did not enter their data, so I can't use that to calculate my average. So this time, my average is going to be out of 5. Hopefully by the time you do this on your own, that will be fixed and you can do it out of 6. So once again, down here, I click on the cell, equals average. Here it is. I'm going to highlight my cells, close my parentheses, and hit enter. Too many decimal points. So again, I go up here to highlight the cell, go up here to format, number, and click on the one with 2 decimal points. And there we go. So now I have successfully calculated the diversity index values, the average diversity index values for each of the communities that we measured in class. And the next step is to make a graph. And in this case, my whole purpose of this lab is to figure out which community has the most diversity. So I want a graph that shows which community has the most diversity. And the best way to do that is a graph showing the diversity index of each community. Now I only need to use the average diversity index of each community. So what I need to do is create a table over here that I call a summary table, which is basically a summary of the data or the average data that we collected in class. So in my summary table, I know I'm comparing, I have to think about what I'm comparing, and in this case I'm comparing community 1, community 2, and I'm comparing that with community 3. And I'm going to get rid of this up here because I don't quite need that there. I'll move it up one because you're going to see I need to put my average diversity index. Now when you create your tables, it's really important that you clearly label your columns and your rows. So here, my average diversity index for community 1 is 0.17. And if I go look over here for community 2, it is 0.01, so I'm going to type that in. And for community 3, I need to scroll down and see here, 0.06. Okay, so there we go, there we have it for the 2 or 3 communities. Now, I can really make this data table look a little nicer. Here, I'm just going to bold this, bold these over here. And I don't like how the data is lined up all along the right side of the cell here. So I'm going to highlight this data and I'm going to tell it to center it because I like it when my data is centered underneath. I think it's easier to read. Whenever you have a table, it's always good to title your table. And we have a title here called summary table, but that's not really a great title for a table. Your title should really tell the reader what kind of data is contained within that table. So here, this is my summary table, and I'm going to title it Average Diversity Index of 3 different communities. And that is a much better title. Maybe I'll put a colon here because this is the actual title of my table. I'm going to bold that so it looks a little bit nicer. And if you like your cells with lines around them, we can put lines around them by clicking here and adding borders. Now this, if you look, this column header goes outside of the cell. So to fix that, we click wrap text, and there it puts it all nicely in the cell. Okay, so my next step, I can actually put borders around this too, make it look a little nicer. There we go. My next step is to make a graph. Now I have my summary table, and what I want is a graph of this data. So when I make a graph in Google Sheets, I'm going to highlight the data that I want to use to make a graph, just like this. And I'm going to find my graph icon. If it's not showing up, you might have to click on a button that says more over here, and you should see this picture. This picture is going to insert a chart, so I'm going to click on it. Try again. There we go. And I want a column chart that looks like this. And there we go. There's my community 1, community 2, and community 3. And if yours doesn't look like this, sometimes you have to play around like this. This works as well. I like the way that this first one looks a little bit better. And my chart needs to be customized. When I say customized, that means we have to add a title. We have to add labels on the X and Y axes. So I'm going to go in here and title my chart. And again, we're going to title our chart telling the reader what information is contained within this chart. In this chart, we have the average diversity index of different communities. And now I can scroll down to title my axes. So this is my horizontal or my x-axis right down here. And I have the community. And it's actually already there because it has labels on it. But if you want to put the community number there or community type, That's fine. Once you do your data when we're out in the prairie, you can put community type. So that's that, and I'll put my left vertical or my y-axis here. And if you remember, that is the average diversity index. And that looks good. There it is. And I'm going to click insert, and now I have my table. Now, you guys have to insert these things into the document that I gave you. So what you're going to have to do is copy and paste some of this stuff. Now, when you copy and paste a graph, it's really simple. You click on the graph, and you click on this down chart, and you go to copy chart, and then you can paste it or do a control V right into the Google Doc that you're pasting it into. When you are copying and pasting data tables using Google Docs, data tables don't transfer over so nicely. So when you copy and paste your data table, what you're going to have to do is a screenshot. And you're going to have to take a screenshot or a picture of this table, and then you can insert it into your Google Doc. Taking a screenshot is a pretty easy thing. There's a separate video that tells you how to do that if you don't know how to do that. So that's how you use a spreadsheet to perform calculations, how to create a summary table, and how to create a graph from that summary table, specifically with the data we used comparing different communities. So you guys need to do this on your own with your own data, and then you'll have to do it again with the data in the prairie. So good luck. See you soon.